Final Fantasy XIV has always had the elemental wheel and the concept of astral fire and umbral ice as a core mechanic of the iconic Black Mage. The elemental wheel has also made direct appearances in a host of content, such as in Shadowbringers main story cutscenes and Eureka, where you'd cast the opposing elements to deal more damage to targets. Rather than primary colors, in Final Fantasy XIV, we are instead seeing the Pictomancer in the video game footage paint with the elements of fire, lightning, earth. Then they explicitly are doing a change to the umbral through painting the dark picture over the light. You can then see the brush itself change color from light to dark if you look really close, or from astral to the umbral. And then lastly, ice is cast after the change to the umbral. My spidey sense is going off that just exactly like the Green Mage logo in Kryle's hand in the 6.5 cutscene, that this earth being placed here is just bait to throw us off of actually finding out this mechanic that I'm looking at now. As a person who does YouTube, the cuts made between the footage here strike me as explicitly intentional. Look at the Moogle casting animation, for example. This is probably the easiest example for everyone to get a hold of. We're going to talk about that soon for the record. But this is clearly rewound footage taken from multiple different angles, obviously to like give some flair, but it's not showing the actual casting time from start to finish. This earth here, in my opinion, was definitely thrown to throw us off of this pattern here. Now, what would the job gauge for the Pictomancer look like? Well, with the Pictomancer painting with the elements and changing between the astral and the umbral, we have the job gauge on the screen right now. It's the palette that they're holding. I am fully convinced that the job gauge is quite literally a Pictomancer's artist palette at this point. Rewind time for a second. Now, I made a recent video talking about combining colors of the primary colors of yellow, red, and blue, which is real life primary colors, to say blue and yellow would form green. And then we would say apply status effects onto the target because we're literally painting the targets. Okay. Confession time. Throw all of that out into the garbage. Now that we actually have footage, I'm revising that. All of the primary colors in Final Fantasy XIV's world are the elements of that wheel, and by status effects that may be applied to the target. Like, maybe they do have the ability to apply a damage over time effect, but they are not going to have like an extravagant token system of debuffs to manage on a target. We'll talk about why later, but instead the Pictomancer's palette is going to be where the Pictomancer is storing the paint colors that they're casting, such as if they cast fire red, their palette gauge gets the red element; if they cast ice blue, their palette gauge gets the blue element; and if they cast lightning purple, well, you get it at this point. This palette is the place where they're storing all of the colors that they have used, that they have cast on their explicit combo abilities, like their like building abilities of like red, purple, blue, and then they on their palette will have abilities to mix the colors together in order to create an extraordinary output, like a masterwork, mastercraft, or whatever you want to call it. Which, if you look at the slide, we can see that it outright explicitly says their creations include not only creatures and weapons, but landscapes as well, and that invoking such wonders takes time. Which, on the surface, just sounds very, very obvious, like, oh, okay, you have a masterwork, that takes time. But what stands out here is the next line on the slide that says, because it takes time, they have instant cast abilities, which is what we call things that are off the global cooldown, and spells, which are what we call the actual things that they cast on the global cooldown. And we've yet to see any cast time spell or weapon skill in this game allow movement. And that's why I say weapon skill, is because range, physical, DPS, and PvP, of course, I'm not going to forget them. But even there, they do not allow other weapon skills to be taken or actions during their casts. That will cancel a cast. And note that they're using the word invoking. They're not using the word casting, which sounds so nitpicky, but these kind of details with this information matter so much. Which leads me, though, to believe that when they are talking about evoking wonders, that the wonders are the outputs of the colors on that palette that they have. Let's say that your palette has fire red, earth yellow, and lightning purple, and say blue ice, which is what we see in the video. Then you can mix them, all of those colors on your palette together, to output a moogle, which is what we see. A moogle casting Hyper Beam from Pokemon, which is freaking hilarious and iconic. I kind of love it. Now let's ground this theory in what we have in the game today. Is this kind of system preposterous? Is it insane? Is it so outlandish? No. It's simply an enhanced and extended version of the ninja's mudra system, and I'll throw in here that the samurai has a token system too, so it could be possibly that too, which, for the record, I love the ninja, and I have said that I adore the ninja as my favorite melee DPS so many times that I'm definitely going to get a comment saying, yes, okay, we get you like ninja. But if you look at the ninja's simple 3 Tenchi Jin, where you get 11 potential outputs, now, how far do the developers intend to take the Pictomancer's possible permutations? I genuinely doubt that we're going to be getting over 50 permutations, guys. Let's be real here. Let's be frank here. There is no freaking way we are getting 50 permutations, so discard that. We might get 10. We might get 15 even, but no, we're not getting the full permutation range. Which is exactly, and I want to say this very clearly, this is where I believe that the moogle comes into play, because this moogle, respectfully, this looks like a level 30 skill to me. Like, this does not look flashy, this does not look impressive, or it does look impressive, like, you guys know what I'm saying. It doesn't look what you'd expect from a level 100 Pictomancer skill, or level 80 Pictomancer skill, or a level 60, or even a level 50. This kind of, maybe it's the 50, because Good King Moogle Mog's level 50. But again, this does not look like a flagship Pictomancer skill. But my point is that there is a solid chance that just like the ninja has various default states, like if the ninja only has one mudra of Tenchi or Jin, then they cast Fuma Shuriken as a fallback state, or if they have a specific combo of 3 Tenchi Jin, for example, then they use Suiton. But before I caveat into the system's limitations and what you should be wary of, let's make an interesting note. Ninja has Raiton cast standard by using Ten and Chi, which falls under the special effect of Kisatsu into turning into Hyoshu Ranryu by casting the exact same Ten Chi. Pictomancer may get future abilities to temporarily change their output similar to this Kisatsu ability. Now to the caveats of this ninja theory and the changes. Rather, the twist is that firstly, I do not believe Pictomancer will have an outright fail state like a total loss where if you mess up the rotation that the ninja does during their mudra, that you're going to get the failure Vieira of lame sauce on your head. Secondly, ninja's output is based on sequential order. Pictomancer, however, is going to be more like samurai with 6 stamps that they collect on their elemental color palette in whatever order they choose. Now, why would having any order be admissible for the Pictomancer be so important? So refer to the slide where they state that they have on the global cooldown spells, which from the trailer I believe is shown in fire red paint. We can see the horizontal paintbrush position during the cast time during purple, earth yellow, and then blue ice. Given the other 2 elements we haven't seen, the spread may be that the Pictomancer has 3 cast time, purple, yellow, blue ice, and then has 3 no cast time on the GCD spells for fire red, wind green, and then dark navy water. I'm actually so hyped that's so hard to talk, guys. I'm so sorry. The Pictomancer just But this system would be important to allow the Pictomancer to move in the field, so correctly collecting the paint colors on their palette while not losing uptime would involve the player of the Pictomancer using the best element that they would need for their combo piece that they want to, their final output that they want to collect the combo pieces for, while not stopping their GCD from rolling. The concept of always be casting is popular in the community, so ABC. You always want to be casting, you always want to be building up as a Pictomancer to get that final output, and so you want to use the correct paint color in order to resolve the mechanic and keep your GCD rolling while working to your final masterwork. Now that we've covered like the full spectrum of the actual job's like fundamental combo, I'm gonna say that the Pictomancer video shown clearly shows only the most fundamental, the most absolute basic of the basic building blocks of the Pictomancer. And of course, the most simple view into the inputs and outputs of the Pictomancer's job gauge. We're seeing the Pictomancer cast the basic elements. We're seeing the Pictomancer change from the astral to the umbral, which we're then seeing the Pictomancer combine all the elements on their palette to produce a moogle masterwork that does like Hyper Beam from Pokemon, which all of this looking into the Pictomancer is very basic, but it also makes complete sense because this is only the first initial showing of the Pictomancer. Like when Sage was shown, they weren't showing off the full span of the kit. Literally, and I just double checked on the video, they showed single target heal diagnosis, which not many sages use in the first place. Then we saw them use Dosis, which is their basic spammable. Then Eucrasian Diagnosis, which is just their single target barrier. And then Toxicon. We did not see Panheima, Holos, Phlegma, Caracal, Taracal. We didn't see the full breadth of things, or even the mobility ability Icarus, which really makes a sage stand out amongst healers. We didn't even see that. So don't count the Pictomancer out in your mind just because they showed only the absolute bare minimum basics, guys. But I do want to say that I am very optimistic that they showed a lot, which I am like 100% confident on this theory that I just proposed. I'm like 100% confident. I believe that the Earth is bait. I think they're trying to throw us off of this, but looking at this, knowing this game and playing this game for literally a decade, I would be shocked if this wasn't the core mechanic of the Pictomancer, with the palette being their job gauge. This elemental pain and palette system just totally makes sense in my mind. And with that, I'm going to leave future videos to talk about other systems. We do have a lot more to talk about here, but I want to talk about what we have concrete in our hands right now, because this footage tells us quite a lot about the underlying basics of the Pictomancer. Take care, everyone, and I hope that you're as hyped for the Pictomancer as I am. I'm actually so excited. It's the technical caster that I've been missing since Summoner. Give me this. I'm so hyped, guys.